Hello, my friends. I'm Pete Torre, and welcome to episode number 4 of the Pete Torre Show. Before we move on, I want to thank my sponsors, Jackson West Medical Center, Best Practices Title, and Clutch Burger. As we do all the time, we are here to inform, educate, and inspire you to take your business and your career to that next level and enhance your life. Today's guests are coming from across the country. My first guest from Austin, Texas, will be Sean O'Brien Brehm, founder and chairman of CrowdPoint Technologies. And following him will be Bill Caskey, all the way from Indianapolis, Indiana, who is a sales and leadership consultant and best-selling author of Same Game, New Rules. And now, let's start with my first guest. All right, everybody, it's my pleasure to bring back to this show a incredible innovator, entrepreneur, who's become a very good friend, Sean O'Brien Brehm, the founder and chairman of CrowdPoint Technologies. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Pete? Good to see you today.
Yeah, man. I mean, the saying when someone is going a mile a minute, you blew that out of the water, man. You're going about 100 miles a minute, and it's just it's so wonderful. The times that we're able to talk and share ideas is that every day apparently you're just going to that next level and uncovering things and that next step and never being satisfied where you're at because of what you're uncovering and all of this. I'm going to let the audience know that today is a preview of a brand new show that we're going to get started in 2 weeks. It's actually going to be broadcast for the first time on Cinco de Mayo, May the 5th. And it's going to be called Blockchain Talk. We're hearing everything regarding blockchain, cryptocurrency, this whole new world that is just taken over everything, all walks of life. And, especially the fact that we're in Miami, okay, and there's this big boom in technology and there's things coming up in the next couple of months. It's perfect timing.
Exactly.
Before we get into the real initial ABCs of blockchain technology, for the benefit of the viewers, Sean, can you give us a short summary about what CrowdPoint Technologies is about?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. CrowdPoint, when you think about it, there's that point in time, whether it was Tiananmen Square, the American Revolution, it's where one person steps forward, and then the next person, and the next person, and then the crowd comes, right? Where you can take every unique individual, and even though we're all decentralized in the way we look at life and we have our own opinions, but when all of us who in our unique kind of contributions come together, man, it's just super, super powerful. So CrowdPoint is about bringing everybody together and making sure that there's security and privacy and performance and protection on the blockchain. And we're building a blockchain ecosystem powered by our own blockchain technology. But we wanted to make sure that it had 3 fundamental principles. We want to make sure it provided enhanced performance. We had to make sure it provided enhanced protection. And we want to make sure it provided enhanced privacy. And so that's really what we're doing. And it's just absolutely, as you said, it's exploding. We're having so much fun. And I thought we'd spend some time just kind of catching people up about what the blockchain is. I mean, I think it's going to be the single largest opportunity for the average American or the average global citizen, not just the United States, but around the world. Mm-hmm. We saw the dot-com boom in the 1990s, and so many people have never been able to keep up. Well, good news. Those of you that kind of got lost and the tech boom happened and you felt left out, there's one more chance for you. And this chance is actually going to be bigger than the dot-com boom in the 1990s.
It really is, and it's before our very eyes. We're seeing it happening, and everybody's talking about it. There's a buzz out there. Everybody trying to wrap their arms around it to find out what it really means, what it really is. So we talked about this. What we want to do here today is, like you said, we want to just kind of do a very macro discussion about what blockchain is and maybe one or two key benefits. And this will be a prelude as to when we get started in our weekly blockchain talk, where they're going to take it apart and we're going to drill down and get very detailed step by step. So why don't you kind of set it up for us and, and tell us in very, very general terms what
Super.
this is and could mean.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. We really wanted to give back. And there's a lot of people going, I heard of the blockchain, I don't understand it. This next series, the next 90 days, we're really going to go into what the blockchain is. And so, to start off real simple, the blockchain technology, as you know, and if you're watching this, you understand that it's becoming increasingly important in today's digital world. While it originally applied to only digital currencies, the potential applications for blockchain technology really go beyond what everyone thought. As the digital world grows more important, the finding and furthering of these technologies, we need to make sure that we're keeping data safe. In other words, there comes the privacy and protection side of it. But the blockchain also allows us to provide this tamper-proof ability of protecting records. And so this conversation that Pete and I are going to have are going to really hope to explain not only the importance of the blockchain technology, but as well, we want to make sure to kind of walk through in these use cases and show the potential applications that could benefit from it, because that's really important.
Yep.
We want to make sure that as we go through this explanation of understanding the blockchain and the technology behind it, you also understand as a small to medium business or a mid-market business, how you can benefit from it, because the playing field is level right now,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen. It's a level playing field. So if you get in now, you can be just as effective as the big guys. And so, from a blockchain perspective, I'm going to kind of treat you like a novice. And you're probably hearing about this currency concept and the term blockchain. It's probably a new word for you. So so what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you the quick basics in its simplest form. A blockchain is nothing more than a digital ledger. And everybody knows what a ledger is.
Yep.
Because if you ever look at your banking statement each month, you've got a ledger of your insies and your outsies. And you, as an individual or a business, want to always make sure that your insies are greater than outsies.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking that right now as he was saying that.
So
Yeah.
when you think about so really, it's just a series of records. That's all it is. And these records, which are they're really kind of housed in an orderly list, in a cyber list, right? And they're continually expanding and changing. Every record is referred to as a block, and that block. I want you to imagine a Rubik's cube, just a little Rubik's cube, and imagine that all those little colors represent lots of little different contractual obligations or details, and they're all just little. It's a block. It's about a 1 megabyte block with lots of little blocks inside of it, and each one of those contains a unique digital timestamp. That's all it is. So when you think about it from a simple definition, a blockchain is a distributed ledger, and the purpose of it is really to maintain a permanent and tamper-proof record of a digital transaction. That's it. And so the blockchain really acts as kind of this massive decentralized database. That's the easiest way to describe it, Pete.
And I think what you just said a moment ago, that this technology is creating a level playing field for everybody, especially the small guy, the small business owner, in the world of corporate America, and where things are centralized and controlled by the few. They are, as much as they try to do business in this economy, they many times over, they're left outside of all of it, and they don't have the resources to tap into these opportunities here. Okay, this technology is like it's like that old utopian type of mindset. It makes it accessible to everybody and anybody. Okay, and so in order for that to happen, there is a learning curve. and that's what we aspire to do with this new talk show that we're going to be doing, and just take it step by step by step. Why don't you share with the audience, Sean, kind of an overview game plan that we're going to be doing on a weekly basis?
Yeah, sure. That's real simple. What we're going to do is on a weekly basis, we're going to kind of start off on getting to the definition of what the blockchain is. We're going to spend a little bit of time giving some past history. Next week, we're just getting into details on what is the blockchain, and we're going to go deep and so you have a good understanding. And then we're going to move on to understanding the blockchain technology. And after we get to that point, then we're able to sit there and say, okay, what does it have to do with being disruptive, and why is it disruptive? So now in 3 sessions, we'll have a pretty good idea of what the blockchain is, understanding the blockchain technology, and then why it's so disruptive. And once you get that, now you're going to open it up to things like, well, how does that impact the banking industry? What are examples of public and private blockchains? Financial services. What kind of innovation can come into the financial services? Those of you in the financial services. When you understand the impact of the financial services, then you can talk about you as a small business. What are the blockchain uses? And hopefully we'll be able to open this up and you'll be working with people to ask some questions. In other words, what are the uses? What are the financial and operational implications that each and every one of us can leverage? And then what is the role of the blockchain technology in future capital markets? We're going to talk about exchange trading funds and get into that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the financial services industries. And then along the way, every week, we're going to talk about the blockchain myths that are out there and really help you understand. The biggest thing we want you to understand is the blockchain. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it's real important to understand this. The blockchain is going to be bigger than the dot-com boom of the 90s. However, like the dot-com boom, there will be a bubble burst. But It's more likely to be in the area of crypto technologies. So we're going to spend time separating out the value of the blockchain from cryptocurrency, which has been its main focus today.
You know that the cryptocurrency, you just mentioned that now, we're seeing some volatility right now.
Sure.
I mean, we're seeing in the news right now, as we speak, have something happen there. You just inspired me right now. I wrote something down here that I'm going to suggest and recommend for all the viewers now so they can get themselves planned out. To again join us, it'll be the broadcast will be Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. However, as we know already, as we've launched this show, it automatically hits our YouTube channel. So we're going to have episodes, and we're going to say, episode such and such talks about blockchain, talk about this and about that. I'm going to suggest to everybody to go to the local office depot, whatever, and get yourself a journal and put in the front cover there, blockchain talk, so that you can start taking notes as if you're going to a class at the local university or college. Okay, that's how important this is, so that you can have something to refer to, and get yourself ready. And what did they say here? But just kind of get yourself into all of this here, because that's in order for you to take advantage of all of this opportunity. You've got to really digest it and internalize it. And I think that if we all do this together, I think some really cool things are going to happen.
Yeah, it's a revolution. Viva la revolution. It's going to be crazy. I mean, the blockchain, wow, there's so many things we're going to talk about. Let me kind of give you the excitement that we have, that Pete and I have behind this. When we talk about performance, protection, and privacy. Look, people say that data is the new oil, right, Pete? I mean, we've heard people say that data is the new oil. But the difference is it may be the new oil. It may be the new oil. But what you're going to learn about the blockchain is something 10 times more powerful than data being the new oil. Because what you got to understand about data and oil, it's crude. It's got, it comes in all different kinds of sizes. Data comes in variety, velocity, veracity, and volume. But not enough people talks about value. When you see, when you take data and you refine it through a refinery, it gets rid of all that kind of kludginess to it. Even though the data or oil comes in different varieties and it comes in different volumes and veracity and even velocity, how fast it's moving, it's just data. But when you add value to it, when you say, okay, let's understand what this data means. In other words, what is its semantic definition? How, but not just on, you always say, people say, well, it's semantics. Well, yeah, it's very important, because what's important to Pete may not be important to me. My plane ticket back to Texas today is not important to Pete, right? It is important to me. So the semantics of it are really important. So then when you think about the temporal, like, well, my ticket becomes really important. The data around my ticket becomes really important when I'm about ready to travel. And the theme of which airline becomes really important. And then what airline gate am I going to? And matter of fact, what airport am I going to? So when you look at value, all of a sudden data, when you apply semantic, thematic, temporal, and spatial relationship to it, all of a sudden it transforms itself to information. And information is data with value. So think of data plus value equals information. Here's the part each and every one of you has to understand today. The world talks about data, but they don't talk enough about information, because information is the rocket fuel that powers the global economy. And that rocket fuel is you. Each and every one of you today is contributing raw materials. Someone else is refining that raw material, and then they're selling back to you. You've been living on an oppressive model where people are taking I get it, you're opting in, says I'm willing to basically give you all my data so you can find out everywhere I've been, and I fully and willfully participate in surveillance capitalism where you herd me like sheep to where I want to go and buy something. I understand that. The blockchain, ladies and gentlemen, is una revolución. It's going to change the way. It's a revolution. And so when you spend time with Pete and I, you're going to discover about how the world is powered by the human identity, which is data with value. Your data, you're powering the global economy, and the blockchain is going to set you free.
And with that, what a perfect segue to get everybody really sitting on the edge of your chairs to join us May the 5th for the first broadcast of Blockchain Talk with Sean. Again, this whole series is brought to you by CrowdPoint Technologies, and we're going to be bringing on some of the greatest minds around the country, the world, that will be special guests that we will be bringing on this program.
We'll give you some hints. We're going to give you guys that are the biggest in cybersecurity. We're going to give you guys that are the biggest in the movie industry. We're going to give you the guys that are the biggest in the real estate industry. We're going to give you the biggest guys in financial. I mean, these are names that that we're going to bring on as guests of Pete and I. And these are people that could be on CNN and Fox News and all the top, but they're coming to spend time with Pete and I. So you got to spend time with us.
Got to do it. Sean, thank you, my brother. This is a great preview. Obviously lots to talk about, but man, I'm as excited because it's so good to feel that you're part of something that's a game changer is an understatement. Transformative, earth-shattering, whatever terminology. This is important, and we want the audience to be part of this opportunity and to truly know how to tap into it. So, my friend, thank you so much, man. Talk to you really soon.
See you soon. Thanks very much.
Take care. Bye-bye. A big thank you to Sean O'Brien Brehm for being with us here today with this exciting news that we just shared with you. And now for my second guest. Okay, I am now today bringing back to this show a friend of mine. He's all the way from Indianapolis, Indiana. His name is Bill Caskey. He is a sales and leadership consultant and the best-selling author of a book called Same Game, New Rules that my brother sent to me about maybe 20 years ago, and it's been a big influence on me personally, and it's why maybe in so many ways that I'm doing this talk show. So, Bill, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you having me on, and congratulations on your new platform.
And it is a platform because I'm actually standing on a platform right now making this noise. This is a mobile desk that I have here, but it's part of the scene and what we're doing. You and I spoke last summer as the pandemic was in its peak, and we were going through a lot of I think uncertainty is a understatement, but a whole new world, and folks were just doing everything virtually, Zoom calls, and we talked a little bit about how to maximize your online presence, your online content, as it relates to growing your business. So, fast forward to 2021, April, and things are hopefully, apparently, loosening up. But we got the vaccine thing going on right now, so we're in that transition year. So, how are things developing from your end? Because you're on top of training and doing work with professionals around the country.
It's all exhausting, isn't it? We talked about that a little bit.
I'm out of breath after telling you that right now.
Yeah. That's what I meant. I don't mean the pandemic. I mean your description of it.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah, it's all exhausting. And I think for sales people and sales teams, and by the way, I work primarily with business to business sales teams, so not business to consumer, but there's a lot of companies. Salesforce has a big presence here in Indianapolis, the CRM company, and my daughter actually works for them. They're not going back into their office until into next year.
That's right.
And I think a lot of companies are like that. And they've kind of gotten used to this. Do we really need all the real estate? Do we really need people together? We got Zoom. Now, I think there's something dramatically missing from that face-to-face interaction, but that's for another podcast. So the point is, if you're calling on some of these companies that aren't back, you're going to be virtual, if not forever, at least for the next year. And so you'd better figure out a way to make that work for you. And I think, and I'm babbling a little bit here, but I think we kind of dabbled in virtual back in 2020. We all got excited about Zoom, but at some point, Zoom is exhausting. I mean, you can't sit in front of a screen for 10 hours a day and be as chipper in the 9th hour as you were in hour number 1. And think about your clients. They're doing a lot of Zoom or Microsoft Teams virtual meetings. So I think what's incumbent upon us as sales professionals is that we mimic the experience of face-to-face as much as we can on Zoom or virtual. And that's hard to do.
You just mentioned something now, the Zoom fatigue. I mean, we have the coronavirus, and then we have another disease called Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it didn't take me long to be fatigued. It took me about a week or so.
Yeah.
And then I just said, Jesus, we're in for a long, long time of this. And so how do we work with it?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've started to do, and this might be a tip for some of your viewers or listeners, not all, but you'll notice that my face is not right up in the camera like a lot of times it was. And so I've bought a Logitech camera. I think it was $70. I've got a tripod. I've got it about 4 feet away. And then if this was a training or coaching session, I would have an easel right over here that's sitting behind the camera. Mm-hmm. And I would be able to connect with the people. I could move around. I would be mic'd, so I wouldn't be moving away from the mic. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but you've got to come up with new ways to make it interesting, because me 6 inches away from the camera is frightening after a while.
Yeah.
And so we've got to figure out ways as sales professionals and as presenters, because really what you're talking about here is how do we present our information in a manner that causes someone to say, man, I'd like to hear more from Peter or from Bill. So mimicking the face-to-face experience, I think that should be the goal for 2021 as best we can.
That's an interesting thought. Remember, because when we are face-to-face, the vision is clear. I mean, we don't have any fuzziness or video issues to deal with there, and the speaking is real time, and there isn't that, a lot of times you see people in Zoom calls and they talk and then their voice comes out and then their lips are moving 5 seconds later, and things like that. In real life, that doesn't happen. So here it's kind of like taking stuff that's out here and bringing it all together so that you can have the next best thing to speaking face to face with someone. So as you mentioned, I recall last summer, you mentioned the equipment that you have and the quality of the video to get working together with the content, the right content. Can you expand a little bit on how important the content is in lieu of the fact that the competition with video podcasts, audio podcasts is greater than it's ever been?
Yeah. So are you talking about in the sales process or generally just digital marketing?
Well, digital marketing, and because you're selling, and you got to make that presentation over a Zoom call. Yeah. I think it all kind of connects with each other.
It's both. Well, let's talk about the sales process when you're in front of a prospect virtually.
Right.
There's three things. There's the content, which is what am I saying and how am I interacting? There's the visual, which is the video camera that picks up your all the intricacies of your facial expressions and so forth. And then there's the microphone, the audio. And this is I mean, you've got an awesome audio system there. These things are not expensive. They're a couple $100, $300 or $400. Yours is probably higher end than that. But the point is, get a good microphone. Take the money that you were investing in gasoline, driving all around the state, and invest it in a good microphone. So I can take $200 a month or whatever and invest it in this. Invest it in a good camera. Because if you're going to mimic the experience, you can't have a 5-second delay between your voice and your lips and your voice and what you're saying. You just can't. People will get they'll get fatigued by that, always trying to figure out what. And I even I was watching the news last night, and the news had a Harold Ford on, who's a former congressman from Tennessee. And I like Harold Ford. I think he's really a kind of a balance in the middle. You couldn't hear him, because he had some kind of a microphone on that wasn't picking up his voice. And every time he looked, it was like the microphone was over there. And I tweeted him and said, Harold, I love your stuff. Get a better microphone. Because
I actually watched that interview, and I observed the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't get back with me, but hopefully next time we'll have a better microphone.
Next time when you see him on Fox or something like that, you'll see if he can improve, right?
Yeah. So you'll notice that when the pandemic first started, all the people who were television folks and they were out remote, they all had crappy cameras. Within a month, they all had M50 Canons. They had great microphones. It was like they were in the studio. You couldn't tell the difference. So they learned the hard way. But you as a sales professional, if you're giving presentations, make sure your video is right and your audio is right. Content. I think the days are over when you were just going through a slideshow with people. I think they always were over, but I think now we've taken the slideshow from the projector and we've put it onto our screen. And I've got to think there's better ways to do that. One way to do it is to not put 17 bullet points on a slide and read them. I would rather you make the thing change. So if you got 5 bullet points, make each bullet point a separate slide with a picture behind it, with some graphics, with some design. Give the person a chance to get excited about it. Helvetica font, 14 point, you can barely read it with 10 bullets is not a good experience. So think about how your visuals look. That's another thing that I would do. In terms of digital marketing, I've got a client who is a kind of a junior sales professional he calls on healthcare systems, and he started a podcast. He listens to a couple of mine, and he wanted to do it. And he started a podcast. And within 6 months, he's got people in the medical profession, executives calling him, wanting to be on his podcast. Guess what happens? He gets connections. It's not very hard to get a meeting with somebody when you're asking to interview them. You can call a CEO of a hospital and they'll be on like that because they're starved for publicity.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. So now he's built up this network of people and this audience. He doesn't have a big audience. He's only calling on 500 hospitals throughout the Midwest. So he only needs 500 listeners. And it's been a boon to his business. And here's a young man, 28, who just decided one day, I'm going to do a podcast. And that thing was up and running within a week, rather than the typical thing is, well, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. I'm thinking about doing YouTube. I don't know if I have the camera. That whole thing, you've got to act and act quickly, because momentum is not contained. Momentum just expires after a while.
That is such a great point. We're living in 20 years ago, we heard the fact that we're living in a fast-paced world. That was like getting on a donkey compared to what you need to do today. I mean, you've got to be nimble. You've got to, you got to be ready to move. And there's such a thing as getting the right information so that you can make the right decision. But once you've collected that information, man, it's time to act.
It's go
because
time.
What you're thinking about now, let's say in 3 months I'm going to do this. By the time you do it, it's history.
Yeah.
So it's to think it, be clear, elevate your thinking, because a lot about what you talk about in your book in terms of selling, going back to what we talked about, same game, new rules, it's more of a psychological approach. Instead of reacting, you're acting. And I think what you just said right now is so much about what you talk in the book that is very applicable today. Is just think a little bit, get 80% of the garbage out, get to the point, and then act.
Napoleon Hill, I know you've probably read Think and Grow Rich several times, as I have. And I started into it the other day. And every time I read it, which I haven't read it for way too long, 10 years probably, Think and Grow Rich, it's a great book because he talks in there about the mindset.
Yes.
And his premise is that if you can conceive it and you can
it.
believe it and you can achieve it, conceive to believe, to achieve. And so I think the same thing goes with what we're talking about. If all of a sudden one day you say, you know what, I should do a podcast for my client base. I could have guests on. You can talk yourself into that. I mean, you can really do that. And then you'll talk yourself out of it. Napoleon Hill's point is if you can conceive it, if you can even think about it, do it. Do it. Because your mind wouldn't have come up with that if it wouldn't have been a clue that, hey, this is intuition working here. You should try it. I back in probably early February, I thought, one of the most underserved markets is high achievers, people who earn 150 grand, 200 grand and higher. They're kind of left alone by their companies. They don't really have a place to go to get additional growth. And yet they can scale their business to higher heights because they've already got the foundation laid. And so I decided, I'm going to start a high achievers program. And I got my team together and I said, I want to launch this thing with a webinar on February 25th, which was like 10 days out. We didn't have a logo, didn't have a brand. So in the podcast, I said, hey, we're doing a webinar. I'm thinking about creating this group. Get your name on the wait list. Within 30 days, I had 12 people in the program. Now, I don't have a massive list. My podcast listenership's probably 1,000 a week. So it wasn't like this was a, massive. But when you act quickly, and believe me, there's plenty of times where I haven't acted quickly, but I conceived of this and I was reading Think and Grow Rich at the time. And that kind of came to me. It's like, well, you've thought about it. You got to do it.
That's it. That's also a divine message that we get. If we're listening, you gotta, and if you acted on things in the past and have been successful, then another message that you got to act on it. So the book is not called Overthink and Grow Rich. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And that's the problem that so many have.
That's good.
They overthink it. They want things to be perfect before they can do anything. And I guess our message today is be smart, be strategic, but take action. And take action and look around at the world that is technology. Make sure, as you mentioned, that your video, your visual is the best it can be, from the camera to the mic, that your content matches up with the visual, because we've seen a disconnect. We've had great visuals, content's not real good, or great contact, and you can't really hear them and you can't really see them. So it's really combining those. Any final thoughts, Bill, on what we've talked about?
Well, I think the marketing side is also as important. And what are you doing? This is for your listeners or viewers. What are you doing every day or every other day to get your name and your message out into the world? Whether it's LinkedIn, a social platform, Facebook, whatever you use. LinkedIn's probably the King Kong of our market.
Yes.
But what are you doing every day? And if you look back to your posts and you say, well, you know what, I haven't posted for a month and a half, that's a problem. That is a problem. Because your competitors have probably hired people to post frequently. And I'm not suggesting you do that. I think we can all do that on our own. But are you posting videos? Are you writing articles? Are you getting the videos transcribed and turned into articles? You do that once a week. After 3 or 4 months, people are coming to you because you're seen as the recognized resource in the market. And that's what we all need. We need inbound. This idea of cold calling and outbound and networking, it's over. You've got to create inbound.
You gotta, it's not about promoting yourself so much or pushing for sales, but attracting business opportunities in your way. And again, that's a big part of your book. And I mean it from the heart, man. When I read that book 20 years ago, I've reread it and it's been a major influence for me. And I can't thank you enough for that.
Well, thank you, Pete.
And what you've done there. So what's the best way for the viewers to find out more about the work that you do?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. Go to billcaskey.com, Caskey. And on that page, there's invitations to live stream, coaching, webinars, a lot of free stuff, some paid stuff. We're doing this high achiever program starting I got one group starting in May, another one probably starting in June. So we're just in the throes of marketing that. So if you're a high achiever and have any interest in just checking it out, there's a banner at the top of that page that can get you on the webinar list, and you can see what we're doing.
That's great. Bill, thank you, my brother. And you know, we're going to do this again soon, as always.
Awesome, Pete. Thank you, and good luck to you in your new endeavors.
Thank you, buddy. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Hey, a big thanks to Bill Caskey for being with us here today. And of course, you, our audience and our followers, for being with us on each one of our episodes. Make sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on my YouTube channel, Pete Delatorre. As we part ways today, let me share with you this thought. Have a vision for tomorrow, yet keep an eye on today. Thank you very much, and take care.